It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Wednesday, January 1st. Your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that loves to ring in the new year with a win.
Happy New Year.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade. I'm here, as always, with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for 19 years, Russ Cohen. To keep up with our episodes and all the latest with the Flyers, you can find us at Locked On Flyers on all your favorite socials, including Blue Sky, and of course here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We are going to get into that bonkers USA versus Canada game at World Juniors and check in where we are for the quarterfinal matchups, plus give our New Year's resolutions around the Flyers and hockey, and maybe outside of hockey too. But of course, we have to start with the Flyers versus the Sharks here. Interesting follow-up to the Kings game. Mitchkov was fined for that high stick on Byfield, but there was no additional discipline, so we got to move on from that. He's a little bit poorer for it, but lesson learned, I think, to some degree for him. There's an interesting lineup for this game because they kind of rejiggered the bottom six and put Couturier and Farabee on the fourth line with Garnet Hathaway, moved Paling up to the third line with Tippett and Konecny. And there were some interesting results to that, I would say, at least for Ryan Paling, right?
Yeah, for Ryan Paling there was. And that's fine. I mean, I didn't make too much out of it. I didn't think it was that big a deal.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think for one game, especially against the
Right.
Sharks, I mean, I hate to say it's just the Sharks, but it is
No,
kind
but
of
I mean,
just the Sharks,
and
right?
especially with Georgiev and Ned, he's not having a good year. So
hmm
I get it.
Yeah. So I think like if this is a long-term thing, maybe, we start to become concerned, but it is interesting because Ryan Paling hasn't produced a ton this year.
No.
We've talked about it. He's been pretty solidly stuck on that fourth line, but you move him up in the lineup a little bit with an Owen Tippett, who is actually starting to be a little bit of a playmaker now.
Yeah.
And, Ryan Paling led the team in scoring chances in this game. And I think that's partially due to being with guys that are going to create opportunities, right?
Yeah, I think there's something to that for sure. And yeah, Tippett's definitely out there making some good passes. Still needs to score more. I got to throw that in,
Right.
but
Sure.
no, it's at least he's contributing, and that's good.
Yeah, I think obviously depth scoring and the defense getting involved was the story in this game.
Yeah,
Other than we'll talk about the goaltending situation, but I think that you get a goal from Nick Seeler and Igor Zamula in this game. I think
yeah,
chances are you're going to maybe win the game because
yeah. I mean,
you
you
know
know things are rolling right with that, and yeah, Zamula had a tremendous game. He
he
did.
did.
Drysdale at least had a good game in this one, so that's
He
good.
also good,
Yeah,
also very good.
I mean, it helps to play the Sharks. We'll see, how this carries over. I mean, Sam Ersson did stop a lot of good shots early. He did. I mean,
hmm
Celebrini, I'm just gonna tell you flat out, Cam York could not cover him. Couldn't do it. Not even
Yeah.
close. And it's a little worrisome with Cam York. Like since he's been back, he has not been great.
Yeah, I do think that obviously with Celebrini, he is a special talent. We talked about him on
Sure.
yesterday's show. And so I think Cam York should, if healthy, be able to cover him better than he did, but it still
Right.
wasn't going to be great, I think, given the talent that Celebrini has.
Yeah, I still was looking for just a little bit more. I felt like
Yeah.
Celebrini had a few too many good looks, but Zamula, Erson stopped them, so that was good for him.
Yeah. And Kolosov did too
Yeah,
in the third period. And I think that obviously we're worried about Sam Ersson here having to leave the game after the second period, and no word in the immediate post game on what the situation is. But you know, uh, some would say this is why they're carrying the third goalie, but you can always call somebody up.
Right. I
I,
mean, it's a
it's
long trip. Like,
concerning though.
yeah, it's a long trip. Like John said, they could have somebody meet them. It's not like they're playing tomorrow. So it's not a problem. So I think that's not a reason. And honestly, I'm leaning towards just shut it down for Urson. You do need to shut it down. There's more to it than just, hey, we got run into, and he's had combined injuries. We don't know what they are, but he's definitely had combined injuries, and I would shut him down. You have two other goalies. Like, you don't want to have him be out for a long stretch of time. I've looked at the schedule, and the problem with the schedule this year is you have a lot of games before the Four Nations, but then
Yeah.
from the Four Nations to the trade deadline, most teams only have like 6 games or less. There's no time to react at that point. So there's going to be a big rest at the Four Nations, but you got to get to the Four Nations. Like, that's the big part of the season. So, like, I feel like if you shut Urson down now for a couple weeks, you might be able to get him there. I don't think he's going to get there like this.
Yeah, it is an option. I think obviously we need more information on what exactly is going on with him, but given how, Kolosov did play well in the
Hmm.
third period there, I don't think he's played consistently well enough to carry the bigger load yet, but they could 50-50 it with Urson
I
and
think they're
him.
going to have to right now. I mean, well, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'd say I don't know if Urson's getting back in there for a little while. I just have a
right.
feeling he's not. And so, like, I'm just looking at it from the perspective of, even if he's not super banged up, that's the next step in this. Once goalies start having this happen a few times, it's hard to get them
Mhm.
off this. It is.
Yeah, I mean, to be determined, but there's all of these are good questions and good thoughts to have at this time, given his injury history and whatnot. And I think that you got to consider all the options here, but hopefully he's fine and we don't have to uh, think about some of those possibilities. I do want to talk about Travis Konecny because he was somebody we said,
Yeah.
should be shooting more and,
Hmm.
was having trouble putting the puck in the net. He did do so in this game and, he had um, 4 chances in this game. I think he's still a little gun shy, but I
A little
think
bit.
that it was better in this
Yeah,
game.
I mean, he got a power play goal, but that's something. At least if that gets him sparked,
Mhm.
that's good. And so, that could get him going.
Yeah, speaking of the power play, I put "Is the power play back" on the graphic, for the people watching this on YouTube, and, it's kind of a joke, but also not at the same time, right? Because I think there's a couple things going on with the power play here, where first off, it was decently successful in this game, even though one, of the goals was disallowed,
Right,
they
right.
still got it done, right,
Hmm.
in terms of the puck movement, and then they had an additional goal that came after the power play expired, but due to some of the work that had been done on the power play, and so I think that that's very good and could help jumpstart the power play, but also I still feel like it was a little stagnant. Even when they were moving the puck around, the Sharks players weren't moving very
Right.
much. And that was the sign to me that it was a little bit of a mirage there.
A little bit. Either way, I'm gonna wait till they play a better team to see
Yes.
if it's actually on track. That's just the way my brain's working on this one.
No, I totally agree because, like I said, it felt like, okay, they were able to execute here, but the
Hmm.
Sharks penalty kill is not great.
It's not.
And they weren't really moving that much, which leads me to believe that they had all the lanes covered
Right.
and the Flyers were just kind of moving the puck around, but they did get it net front more than they usually do. So
True.
that is a good sign. And again, they got one on the board this game. So hopefully they can build on that, and maybe see how they do against a better team like Vegas, who's next up for the Flyers, which is going to be a very tough game on Thursday. And I think that that is kind of going to be a true test. It's at the tail end of this road trip. Plus, they're a much, much better team than the Sharks.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. The World Juniors has been very exciting, very surprising, a little intense. And we are going to talk about USA versus Canada and everything else related to World Juniors and the Flyers prospects coming up next. I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. And one of my favorite memories was attending a Broadway show I'd been looking forward to seeing for a long time. And Gametime has made it even easier to get tickets for your favorite events with their new feature, Gametime Picks. This feature filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I was looking for tickets to an upcoming show using the Game Time app. And with those picks, I found that amazing deal and could even see the view from my seat before buying the ticket. Their super deals are particularly impressive. They offer great seats at unbeatable prices. Plus, the app's all in pricing shows the total cost up front with no surprise fees at checkout. And the best part, when I won, I got paid instantly. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code Locked On NHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem with the code Locked On NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, on our next show, which will be on Friday, because Russ will be traveling to Ottawa for World Junior Quarterfinals, which is very exciting. So we're going to have a report from Ottawa from Russ, as well as a recap of Flyers versus the Vegas Golden Knights. And this USA Canada game, which was the deciding game for the whole tournament in terms of how the seeding would go, since it was the last preliminary round game. And in some ways, it did not disappoint, and in other ways, it very much did disappoint. Because I think kind of the lack of discipline overall in the game kind of hung over it. Would you say?
Y- Yeah, I would say you're accurate on that. I don't know why Canada kind of lost their stuff a few times, and
Hmm.
maybe I did write about it on my site NHLDraftBuzz.com. I said that Ryan Leonard needed to get to the net more and cause problems. He did, but they were extra physical from the start of the game. I don't know if the coaching staff told them you're gonna have to, not beat these guys up, but just kind of like keep them away from the puck, and it didn't work.
Yeah, and Ryan Leonard, I think, went overboard. I thought he was
Yeah,
too intense and got too physical in this game. And, he took a penalty that led to a Canadian power play goal. He then drew a penalty, which led to a Team USA power play goal. So
yeah,
I don't know if it comes out in the wash for him, but I think he's I feel like when it comes to him, and he's a Caps prospect, right? I feel like he's in the Tom Wilson tradition for
yeah. He's
them.
kind of in the Tom Wilson zone. I think he is a little more offensively talented, but he is. He's in that zone, and it's okay. I mean, in the end, he led. Um, Trey Augustine had a much better game. This was
Yes.
solid for him. He was really good early, which I think also created frustration for Canada. I felt like
Hmm.
Canada's blue line wasn't transporting the puck very well for a long time. Dickinson finally did some things in the third period, but like Oliver Bonk was largely
absent.
disappearing on offense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe like one play in the second period I saw, but not much. Luchenko, I didn't even see him.
Yeah, I only saw him a couple of times. I think he, like, cleared the puck once that I saw. It was really weird, but Dickinson was also a problem in this game for Canada. I feel like he was not disciplined at all, and
No.
that threw Bonk off his game. I really think the way Sam Dickinson played affected how Oliver Bonk was in that game. So that was kind of disappointing as well. But yeah, it was just a mess. Like the score sheet, it's just like an extra page, I think, just because of all the penalties
Yeah.
in the game. And, when you talk about all the other action, Finland beat Latvia 3-0. Heikki Ruohonen had an assist in that game.
Yeah, that
It was
was
actually
nice.
it was a really good scoring play for Finland that he was involved on. So that was good to see. Sweden defeated Czechia 4-2. There was a penalty shot in that game. Axel Sandin Pellikka had a slash, and Edward Shala scored on the attempt for
Yeah,
Czechia.
Shala could be deadly, man. He's pretty good.
Right, right. So that was kind of a wild game as well because I really thought like Sweden was like dialed in, and then all of a sudden they were not,
Yeah.
and Czechia was trying to climb back into it. So I feel like these last preliminary games were really just a little off kilter.
A little bit. I think for the most part, though, the U.S. had their stuff together on offense. They Danny Nelson, like it's funny, like
Mm,
I've always liked him, but he's been really sort of penned in as a defensive forward, even though he can score some goals. But he's red hot right now. Like, but it was the big thing for the U.S. was Cole Eiserman scoring because,
yes.
um, much like when we would talk about Owen Tippett, he was getting his chances. They weren't going in. He was making some passes. He was doing other things, but he needed a goal and he got it. And that's going to be big for them moving forward.
I think so. It'll be interesting to see what, if anything, carries over from the preliminary rounds into the quarterfinal
Well, there's one
matchup.
thing that'll carry over. We have to say, I mean, Cole Hudson's leading the tournament in points. And
Mhm.
that's tremendous. Like his work is tremendous. I already see some Flyers fans saying, "Hey, we should have drafted him." It's like, well, you didn't draft Z William. I don't think you were going to draft Cole Hudson for the same reasons, unfortunately. But it was nice to see him really have another big game. I think he's finally getting some respect out there. It's nice.
Yeah, it is interesting because he's tied with Axel Sandy and Pelika
Oh,
for
tied with him. Yeah,
for the scoring lead in
yeah,
the tournament. Sandy Pelika has 4 goals and 4 assists, and Cole Hudson has 2 goals and 6 assists. But they're both defensemen, which is crazy that the 2
it
leading
is.
scorers in the tournament are defensemen, right?
Yeah, it is a little crazy, and I think everybody would have thought Sandy Pellica would have more points maybe than Hudson, but yeah, it just shows that if you have this is the way hockey is now. If you have a dynamic defenseman, it really can change the course of the game. And I think Hudson, when he set up Nelson, what was it, that second goal, that changed the course of the game.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And the other interesting thing, and it was true prior to the game, and I just double checked, and after the game, 0 of the top 30 scorers in the tournament are Canadian.
Wow.
Top 30. So because they have, one page of scoring leaders on the tournament website, and it goes up to the 30th,
That's
and
crazy.
none of them are Canadian. There's a bunch of Americans, the Slovaks have a lot of good scores in this tournament. There's 3 Czechs in the top 10. Like, no Canadians to be found anywhere, and that, I think, is of concern because they usually need 1
Yeah.
or 2 guys to get hot in this tournament, and they haven't.
Yeah, it's a concern. They have guys that are not doing it. I think they need to break up the McKenna line. That's not
Mhm.
doing it for them. So we'll see. I mean, Nadeau's a pretty dangerous guy. He did get on the board. So we'll see if he gets hot. That's a guy who could be a problem. But
Mhm.
yeah, look, they're down, but they're not out. And they're going to have the
Yep.
home crowd behind them. But now their road's a lot harder.
It really is. So Canada will be facing the aforementioned Czechia in their quarterfinal game. And that is, I mean, Czechia puts up a fight every single time and they can grind it down. And
Yeah.
so it
And that'll
like,
be the late game. Like that'll be the
mhm.
8 o'clock game.
Yep. And then Team USA will face Switzerland in their quarterfinal match. Switzerland won against Kazakhstan to earn their quarterfinal berth in the tournament. Sweden will be facing Latvia. Good to see Latvia in the
Yeah.
quarterfinals.
That's big for
They
them.
earned
That's
it.
a win for them.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge win. Very excited for them. I do anticipate Sweden will win this game. Just the way they've been playing has generally been strong. And then Heikki Ruohonen and Team Finland will be facing Slovakia. That is going to be a duel, I think,
That'll be a
between
good
those.
match. Yeah, that's a good game for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I am really excited for that one. Dalibor Dvorsky has had a
Yeah.
very strong tournament.
No shock
Uh,
there, right? We knew he was going to be a
right,
really good player. So
right.
the Blues got a
So
good one. That's good for them.
they did. They really did. So exciting times for the World Juniors. Excited to hear direct reports from Ottawa when you're up there, and we will do that. In the meantime, it is the new year, and of course, we have to make some hockey related resolutions, and we will do that coming up next.
The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. Not only can you bet on who will win the football game, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points will each team score, and so much more. For NHL picks, there are so many other options like first goal scored, player shots on goal thresholds, over under on total goals, and more. I would say take the Eagles over the Giants this week. I have a hunch. Just visit fanduel.com to join today. That's fanduel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
All right, Russ. Happy New Year to you and
And
to
to you.
everybody out
Yes.
there. We put a call out for your New Year's resolutions. We got a couple good ones that we're going to share. But, when we talk about hockey related and Flyers related New Year's resolutions, we can do it on the Flyers' behalf or for ourselves related to the Flyers. No limits there. So for a Flyers resolution for me, I'm going to try and be realistic about the trade deadline and what the Flyers can accomplish because I think their options are pretty limited in terms of who they can trade first off at this point and what is the return going to be for these guys? Is there going to be salary retention? Are they just going to not trade the guys if any salary retention is involved because they want to save on the cap space? Like, I just don't want to get overblown thoughts into our heads about the possibilities just because I feel like it is pretty limited this year.
Yeah, I think that's good. For the Flyers, I would say I think they still need to work on their defense. I'm not going to count the Sharks game. It was a good game, but it's the Sharks. I still think they need to work on their puck movement and a few other things. So I want to see that, and I think Cam York needs to step it up. Uh, Also, we need Swedish Fish in the press box. I don't understand what happened to them.
Well, yeah, I think you'd have to talk to somebody else about that.
I'm just throwing it out there in the universe.
I think that is always a good idea to manifest things like that. For just more of a general hockey New Year's resolution for me, I am not a list person. Like when it comes to like the end of the year and stuff I don't have lists of like my top 10 goals of the year or my, top 5 wins of the year. Like I just don't keep track of those things. generally. And I was like, oh, maybe I should do that once and see how it goes. So if there's like some sort of thing I want to keep track of, I will start doing it and just start making a spreadsheet as I do and keeping some notes, and we'll see what comes of it.
Yeah, that's good. I'd say for hockey, so I'll watch as much of Alex Ovechkin as I can to see if he could break the record. It'll be interesting. It'd be a great story for the league. Certainly, Wayne Gretzky's not upset about it. So yeah, maybe we'll see that in the new year.
That would be really cool, I think, in the
Yeah,
grand scheme of things. I don't, you know, I guess I'm not really invested either way. If he breaks it, great. If he doesn't, okay. Wayne Gretzky is still the greatest. Like that's
sure.
either way. I think hockey wins,
It's
right?
a right. It's a win-win for hockey either way. But it's good to see somebody from a different generation
Oh,
break a
sure.
record that people thought was unbreakable.
Yeah, always love to see that. As far as a more general New Year's resolution, I want to go to more sports for fun. I don't do that as much just because, yeah, obviously both of us were covering hockey, so most of the
Yeah.
time we go to games, it's related to work and stuff like that. But I got to go to a few WNBA games this past summer. I just went to a PWHL game and sat in the stands, which was so much fun. And I just want to go to more sports for fun in person. I think like I miss doing that. I used to do a lot more of it. And so maybe there'll be some more soccer in my future in the summer. I'm going to try and go to more baseball games. Like last year I went to only a few baseball games
Yeah, yeah.
other than the London one. So I want more baseball, more soccer, more basketball. Bring it on.
I like that. Yeah, mine's gonna be try not to get too dragged down by the New York Jets and what's gonna happen in the offseason and all the drama, and, I'm gonna try and keep an even keel. I don't know how long that's gonna last, but that's what I'm gonna try. It can be difficult at times.
It is a burden to be a Jets fan,
It
Russ.
really is.
Um,
14 years, no playoffs. Sabres
yes,
fans know what that's like if they don't make it this year.
right. As somebody who lives in close proximity to a lot of New York Jets fans, there is a lot of disdain,
Oh,
but
yeah.
also just despair and sadness
A
around
lot of
it.
sadness.
But I know it is really interesting just having a team that you love dearly and you just can't let it go because
Right.
like you can't, like you just can't. And I think
I let
that's
the Knicks
fair.
drift off once upon a time, but that's the only one I let
Mhm.
drift off, and it's probably because I just got less and less invested in the NBA. I still like football, so, um,
Right.
I'm not gonna let
Right.
the Jets drift off, but, I'm gonna try and stay away.
I think that's fair. We got a couple of good resolutions in from listeners. At Philly 1974 said new goaltending would be nice. And, I mean, fair point, but also maybe not new goaltending, maybe the right goaltending that we already have. That would be my response to that. But I think it's an absolutely like important sentiment.
It is, I mean, based on the contracts, I think you might get both in the near future, and, um, don't worry about the World Juniors and Carson Bjarnason. I know a lot of people have, texted me, "Is he on the bench? Why didn't" look, they didn't register him. I don't know why. But it doesn't mean anything. He still is on a path, and that's not going to matter.
Yeah, I don't think it will in the long run, and especially as we always say with goaltending, it is a very long road
It is.
in goaltending development, and so many things can happen. And this one tournament at this one particular time isn't the end all be all. It would be very nice if he played, but was not meant to be this time around. So the other comment we got was from our frequent commenter, Guido Valenti, who said, my wish for 2025, I hope Danny changes the mentality of the too many small players and not enough strong physicality on the team in the comment. And I think, you know, he does have some larger guys waiting in the wings who have not joined the team yet. So I
Hmm.
do think there is a mix of size and smaller skilled guys, but I think the smaller skilled guys aren't quite skilled enough.
Right. But I think what, the listener's getting at, and he also said size and speed equals the cup. And I agree with that for the most part, but you have to have a mix. But I think he's also talking about guys that Danny wouldn't draft based on the fact that, well,
Mhm.
they had small guys already. So why am I taking another? I think that is a short sighted view. And I think if you went number one overall this year and you didn't take James Hagens just because he's smaller, then that would be the epitome of that.
Right. I think that is fair to say, and if anybody passes on James Higgins, I will be shocked. But, we'll see
Weirder
how
things have happened.
weirder things have happened for sure. So, we will absolutely be keeping track of all these prospects from World Juniors as we get closer to next year's draft, but that feels like years away at this point.
Yeah.
But once again, happy new year to everybody. And we will be back on Friday. We're going to record that first thing Friday morning. So it'll be in your feeds kind of early mid morning on Friday, where we'll talk about the Flyers versus Vegas Golden Knights. We'll preview the two games against the Toronto Maple Leafs coming up. Haven't seen them yet. And there's Matthew's injury to talk about. We'll
Yep.
see what's going on with them, plus a World Juniors update from Ottawa. Looking forward to all that. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. You can send in mailbag questions or Flyers thoughts via any of our socials at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail or comment over on YouTube. I'm Rachel. I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. For your next listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert. Get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great new year, everyone.